What's up, guys? Got another video coming at you today. This is going to be a pretty sweet one. So we got a beautiful, let's see if you can see it here, 2015 plus STI in the shop. You look under the hood, looks real nice, got a lot of goodies. So I built this motor in this car about a year ago or so, and he's needed a fuel system since it was built, so he hasn't really been on full power. And so today I'm going to take you guys along for the ride. We're going to do a full radium double pumper fuel system in this car, and then we're going to put it on the dyno and we're going to turn it up and make some good numbers. So I'm going to go over the specs here with you and show you what this thing's got. All right, so the specs on this car, it's got my stage 4 closed deck motor in it. It's got a rotated 6466 turbo kit. It's also, one of the HMS kits that's on this car. ETS front mount, built heads. It's got all the good stuff in it to go fast. So the only thing this car is missing is a fuel system. It's got a completely stock fuel system in it right now. So that's what we're going to be addressing today. And we're going to get that going here. So I'm going to show you guys all the parts I got set up for this. We're doing radium on everything, FIC injectors. We're doing new lines, front to back, fuel filter, everything. So you guys are going to get to see what goes into creating a fuel system to make big power. The goals for this car have changed a little bit since it was built. The motor's built to handle about 600 wheel horsepower, but obviously, sometimes people want more. So he wants 700 out of this. So we're going to see what it's going to do. I've already prepped him and made sure he's aware that he's pushing the motor beyond its design limits. But it's just the way it goes sometimes. Sometimes customers want more power. So we're going to do the best we can to give him what he wants today. And we're going to start on the fuel system. So I'm going to lay all these components out and we're going to go over them and then we'll get started. All right, the first step here is we're going to get the old fuel pump out. So the stock fuel pump lives under the back seat. So we're going to pull that entire housing out, and then we're going to start transferring over the sending unit for the fuel level to the new radium unit, and then we'll get it installed in here. Once that's installed, then I can start laying out the fuel lines and building the lines for the car, because I'll know where all the fittings are going to go and everything. So I'm going to get this pulled out, and then we're going to assemble it on the radium, the level sensor. Then we're going to drop the radium in there, and we're going to keep going. Radium hanger that's going in, and got the fuel level sensor swapped over from the old unit and to the harness that's inside the pump that goes up here to the fuel level ports here, but no big deal, just 2 wires. So she's ready to go. 2 Walbro 450s inside here ready to roll. So we're going to drop this in, reuse the old gasket on the tank and put the bracket on, bolt it down, and then we get to build our fuel lines, and that's when the fun stuff begins. All right, we got the radium fuel unit in. So you can see all the stock bracketries up there and lined up and good to go. So the fuel unit's in. Now we can start plumbing and wiring and do the fun part. All right, so I got everything mocked up here, and there's a couple of different ways you can install this and run lines. This is one of the ways that I prefer. It just makes things a little bit easier. So the crossover, we have an adapter here, and we just reuse the factory line that runs all the way to the other side of the tank for the crossover. And then we don't have to mess with that side of the tank. So we don't have to build a line to go across or anything. So it makes it super simple. So we got that line crossover made there with that little adapter. And then we have these nice hard 90s that come from Radium that make things really nice. So basically what I've done is this is fuel pump 1 and this is fuel pump 2. So fuel pump 2 just comes around and does a 180. So there's a 180 special fitting here that comes into the Y. So each pump Y is in. Then we're going to come out -8 and we're going to go all the way to the engine. Typically Radium has a -6 out of this, but I stepped it up to a -8 because I want to do true -8 feed. And then we're going to run one return line from the regulator of the engine back here, which is a -6 return, and then we're done. So it keeps things very neat and tidy and simple. And it's just the way I like doing it. So a lot of people do this a little differently. Some people will run their own custom lines to each one of these fittings. It's just more time consuming, a little more cost, costs a little more. But at the end of the day, this way works just fine. Isn't going to sacrifice power reliability at all. And it's just a little bit easier. So got that done. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start actually building the lines that go from the front to the back and installing the fuel filter. All right, so we're under the car now, and we have some decisions to make. So how are we going to run the lines from the front to the back? So typically what I do is I remove this piece, this plastic piece, which goes under the hole underneath of this driver's side of the car. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down from the tank. You can't really see it, but the tank is up there. I'm going to come down with my lines, and I'm going to cut a little bit of this plastic under garnish. I'm going to cut it out for the filter because I'm going to actually have the filter in here underneath hidden and all my lines hidden all the way to the front of the engine, which makes things really clean. And then when you look at the bottom of the car, you're not even going to be really able to tell where my lines are. So I'm going to start running my initial line and building that line, and then we're going to start modifying that and get these lines mounted. Let the line building commence. So various fittings, lots of line, and the fun part. Just quick little tip. So when you guys are installing these hoses, when you build hoses like this, this hose, you want to make sure, I don't know if you guys can see it, but you want to make sure the hose inside that fitting is butted all the way up to the bottom of those threads before you start assembling the fitting. So basically this fitting here is going to go screw into this fitting, and that's going to give us our hose end. Now also make sure you oil. I always like to put a little bit of oil on the threads here and on this end of this fitting before I force it down in there and connect this fitting. So I'm going to build this first line. This is going to be our feed line, which is a -8 straight, and then I'm going to feed this up in there. All right, so I'll show you guys how I did my lines. So my lines are sneaking up in the factory location where they go up in there. And then they're running up over the top of the tank in between the body, clear over here. You can barely see them. I don't know if you can see that, but they're hidden way up in there. And then they drop down right here, and they're gonna come and they're gonna go under the car. We got our fuel filter in line, and they're gonna go up over this cross member, and then we're gonna go straight up into the engine bay. And so this plastic piece, I'm going to put back under here. That's going to keep everything hidden, and it'll all look very clean and keep everything secure. All right, well, it doesn't look like much right now, but here's my wire harness that's going to be for the fuel pumps and the second hop switch to turn on the pumps, or the second pump I should say. So I'm going to turn this into a little mess, looks like tangled mess. I'm going to make this thing pretty, so check this out. All right, you guys ready to see a difference? Hey, look at that. One pre-made wire harness ready to go. All right, so I got all the covers back on here. Just want to show you guys. Look at that. All you can see is right there where the lines go up over, and then those run up into the engine bay. So this is pretty much the best way that I found that I can do this, the cleanest. But yeah, all the covers are back on. You can't see anything. Everything's nice and tidy. So yeah, pretty happy with that. So now that the lines and the harness is run, we can hook everything up in the engine bay. All right, so just making my ground and power wires for the fuel pump assembly, installing the relays. So I got everything shrink wrapped, all nice. I'll show you guys how I set this up in here. So basically this is what we're working with here. So I got all the fittings and lines are run. I got everything running just the way I like it, which I'm really happy. I'm hooking up the power wires to each pump and grounds right now. And I'm utilizing a factory rubber grommet in the body to run the wires through. And then I'm going to tuck the relays down here under the seat so they're inside the car nice and clean. Won't be able to see it when the seat's over it. And we'll be good to go. So I'm going to finish up this wiring. All right. Got everything in here all dialed in. Fuel level sensors hooked up. Pumps are wired up. Everything's tight. So we're going to close that up. We're all good to go on that. Now we're going to put the relays in. And then we'll be ready to go. And through the magic of video, it's like I was never there. Well, it's all installed, guys, and you can't even tell. Well, fuel system's done. Everything's plumbed up, wired up. She's pretty much ready to go. So come up here, I'll show you. I mounted the fuses right there on the fuse box for pump 1 and pump 2. So that's all good in there. I got the boost switch hooked up. Everything's done. It's all plumbed, ready. So we're going to turn the key, see if we got any leaks, and then fire this thing up.